Hey guys, it's Kathleen, and today I'm doing a little review of a production I saw when I was in London. It's not very famous, it's not particularly well known, so I honestly don't think you guys are going to be that interested in it. Don't really know why I'm filming it, but I guess I just wanted to review something I saw. I mean, I don't even know what this cursed child nonsense is. So as you can tell from the title of this video and that very clever intro you just saw, I'm going to be talking today about the production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child I saw in London on May 24th and 25th. I was going to say of this past month, but duh, it's May. I bought these tickets about a year and a half ago when they first released pretty much. I got them in November of 2015, and I remember I signed up for the early bird deadline and then I missed them. And then I could only get seats in the very top balcony of the theater, and they were all separate. So I bought 3 tickets and they were not next to each other in the slightest. They were completely different rows. But that was okay because I still got to see it, and that was really cool. I definitely had a restricted view of it, but it was tons of fun and I'm glad I went. But anyhow, today I'm going to be talking about the finer points of the production, and mainly I'm going to be comparing it to the script. Now, as you know, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child was released as a script last year in July so that everyone would have the chance to read it. As many of you also know, many people were disappointed with this, including myself. I had very mixed feelings on this. I think I gave it 3 stars at the time, but it honestly deserved 2. It wasn't great quality and it read like a fan fiction, but I kind of had fun reading it. Nonetheless, going into the actual production, my expectations were lower, mainly because they hadn't been met with the actual script. So I didn't think it was going to be that great, and I was pleasantly surprised for the most part. This video is going to be split up into 3 main parts. So first I'm going to be talking about things that I didn't like in the script and did not work on stage. Then I'm going to talk about things that I didn't like in the script, but I thought worked a lot better on stage. And then I'm going to talk about things I did like in the script, but were elevated by the stage production, so they were even better. I'm also going to be mentioning various technical aspects of the show and various special effects throughout, but I'm going to keep that to a minimum because I understand that there are people who might want to see this show someday, and even if they haven't had the chance yet, they will eventually. So I'm going to keep the secrets a bit, if you will. And I'm not going to spoil too much of that because I know for me that was definitely one of the most interesting and exciting parts of the play, was seeing how everything played out visually. Anyway, this is going to be a ridiculously long video, so I'm just going to get into it. So first off, for things that I thought honestly should have been removed from the script altogether in previews, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. We're going to talk about the trolley witch because it just needs to be said. Why is this scene there? It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any more sense on stage. It's just weirder looking. You see visually her fingers getting longer, but it doesn't make it better. It's not a plot point that makes any sense, and it's never brought up again, and they just ignore it. I think the scene is a primary example of Jack Thorne trying so hard to be funny, and he's just not. It's funny in a sort of what the heck is going on kind of way, but it's not funny in the way it was intended to be, which is a haha, this is really hilarious and well written kind of way. So the Time Turner plot. Can we talk about that for a minute? That's just not a good plot point. I'm sorry. How does it make sense that anyone would believe that Draco Malfoy, in not being able to produce an heir, decided he would send his wife back in time to have sex with a likely infertile man in order to produce a Malfoy heir, which, as I saw someone point out recently, wouldn't even be a Malfoy heir because it wouldn't even be a real Malfoy. It would be Astoria, who married into the family, and Voldemort, who's not a Malfoy. And it's unfortunate that they chose that to hinge their whole plot on, because it's so funny and it's so impossible to take seriously. I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, oh man, there's nothing you can do on stage that could make this particular plot point better, and they did not. So remember that time when Albus and Scorpius were like, oh hey, we're gonna go back and save Cedric Diggory. And remember that time when Amos Diggory blamed Harry Potter for his son's death, even though he never did that in the book? Okay, that kind of speaks for itself, so I'm gonna leave it there. Speaking of Cedric Diggory, Cedric the Death Eater? Nope, nope, nope. Still not good. Still makes no sense. I am not a fan of that plot point. I will never appreciate that. In no universe would Cedric Diggory become a Death Eater. It just would not happen. How does Delphi exist? I'm sorry, I don't get it. How did Voldemort have a child? How did Bellatrix have a child? How was she pregnant in the Battle at Malfoy Manor? How does that make any sense? Also, in what world would anyone think that giving someone a love potion, which is basically the wizarding equivalent of date rape drugs, is a good idea? Much less Ron. Why would he ever think that? It's not funny. Sorry for the negativity, guys, but I kind of had to get that out of my system. But now we're going to talk about things where I actually thought seeing it on stage improved the script and made it a better experience. The character of Albus Potter, if you recall in the script, is kind of whiny and he can be annoying at times and it's hard to sympathize with him. Even though I somewhat did in the script, I know a lot of other people didn't and he could be a big pain. But Theo Ancient, who plays him in this production at this point, did such a fantastic job with Albus. I actually really sympathized with him, and I know he's kind of bratty and he's kind of annoying, but I felt his teen angst. He made teen angst likable, and that is a difficult thing to do. I definitely thought that his character was a lot funnier and I understood his motives a lot more than I did when I read the script, so I think they did a really good job at making Albus just into a better character than he comes across on the page. And of course, that's the miracle of live theater, that obviously you're not going to get everybody's emotions when you read a script versus when you see the play, so I think they did a really, really good job of taking somewhat bland characterization and making it into something better. Weirdly enough, Delphi's character in Act 1 I actually did think was a bit better on stage than she was when I first read it. So her character, while not perfectly sympathetic, is kind of fun to watch and she's kind of fun to have around in the first act. You know she's evil and you know she's a bad egg, but I still kind of liked her. I think I liked her actress a lot though, and she really got to do all the fun scenes, so Act 1 and 2 Delphi, you are on point. So the flashbacks and the AUs. Now, they're so silly. They are ridiculous. They're ridiculous when you read them in the script, and to be honest, they are absolutely ridiculous when you see them, but I kind of loved it. When you read a script, you don't get any of the emotions from the actors, and you don't get any of the fun of it, really, and all you're left with is the ridiculous dialogue, but when you actually see it, it's so entertaining and so much fun that I loved it. I thought it was so good. What I think the play really does well in the flashbacks and the AUs is that it acknowledges how silly it is, and it feels almost like this little inside joke with itself. In the first time travel scene, when Ludo Bagman introduces Victor Crumb at the Triwizard Tournament, there's this scene in the play where Scorpius and Albus go, "Go, go, Crazy Crumb! Go, go, Crazy Crumb!" Which is not very funny, and I don't think would have been funny if I had seen it. Maybe it would have been a little bit, but not as funny as what they actually did, which is the actors replaced that line, and instead they said, what was it? Crumb, Crumb, he's the one, Crumb's the one for everyone, which is so silly and kind of amateur, but hilarious at the same time. So I loved it. I loved that they were taking that and making it their own. And I liked that it was kind of absurd and they were calling out the absurdity. Like when Ludo Bagman is talking and he's like, "Oh, this is complete and utter humiliation." It just sounded so silly, but you felt like the writer knew that. You felt like Jack Thorne was aware of the silliness when he wrote this, so I was okay with that. The first AU I really didn't like that much because I didn't think it was entertaining and I never understood Harry's motive during it. I wasn't sure if he was actually supposed to be hating Scorpius and separating them, or if that was just a product of the AU. It was really unclear, and I wasn't a fan of that. It didn't really improve on that for the play, but the second AU is just so flippin' funny that I can't even deal with it. You definitely feel like you're put in Scorpius' shoes in that AU, where you go and you're looking at this absurd world, and it's comically ridiculous. It's like the bad guys making a parody of themselves, and it's really entertaining, and it was one of the few moments where I think we were sort of supposed to be horrified, but it was kind of supposed to be entertaining. Like when he's talking to Polly Chapman, and she's going on about the blood ball and all this stuff, and it's kind of supposed to be scary, but also really funny at the same time. There were definitely a lot of laughs happening from the audience throughout that whole AU scene, and I don't blame them. I was laughing too, because it's really funny. Like Voldemort Day for Voldemort and Valor. That stuff is insane and ridiculous, but at the same time, you think that the play kind of knows it, so it comes across way better on stage, and I think the actors have way more fun with it on stage. So if you ever go see it, I have to say, the AUs and the flashbacks are some of the most entertaining pieces of that whole theater experience. Can we talk about Albus kissing his aunt? Doesn't need to be said. I don't know. I hated that when I read the book. I thought it was so creepy. And it still is. It's still so weird. It's the weirdest thing ever. But because you see Ron actually being Ron, it's Ron's actor and everything, it doesn't feel as creepy, and I think that's kind of how they get away with it not seeming so weird, because it's Ron's actor, not actually Albus doing it. I did kind of laugh though, and I sort of laughed in the way they intended me to laugh, especially at the bit where he's like, oh, let's have a holiday or a baby. That's just really funny to me. I don't know why, and Hermione's reactions are so entertaining in that scene, and all the characters acknowledge that Albus just made out with his aunt, so at least there's some recognition that that's ridiculous. They definitely did that a lot better on stage than it appears in the script. I really want to talk about some lines that I thought got a lot better when you saw them versus just reading them. First of all, I want to address something that I think is really funny. A while back, before I saw this play, I was watching Hannah from Clockwork Reader's video on popular books she doesn't like, and she mentioned this, and then later I saw her Cursed Child review, where she also mentioned that she hates the line, the very same, oh my, that's her, wow, squeak, my geekness is a quiverin'. There's no punctuation other than period, so it's not like there's even an exclamation point or anything like that. There's nothing that really tells you what this line is supposed to look like, and so when you read it on the page, it's so silly. And I didn't remember what part of the play it was in. I hadn't read this in a year since I first read it, so I thought to myself, maybe they cut it. Nope, they did not cut it. It's there. It's just in Act 4, and it's not as bad as you would think it is. So basically, when you read this on the page, it's so silly because that is not something someone would say in real life, and we read it as if we were just reading a conversation. But when you actually see it performed, it's another one of those moments that's kind of absurd, and it's clearly just meant for a laugh, and you kind of have to accept that. And if you do, it's funny. The actor who plays Scorpius, when he did it, Samuel Blanken, does this hilarious bit where he does this little like dance when he talks about his geekness equivalent, and it's so silly, but it's also really endearing, and within the context of the play, it's kind of something you can see Scorpius doing, so I didn't hate that line. The pigeon racing line at the end, which seemed so bland and boring to me when I first read it, Theo Ancient completely killed that line, and it got a huge laugh. It was really funny. I really liked it. It's just one of those lines that I feel like takes a special actor to get right, and he just nailed it. And then the last line I really want to talk about that I thought wasn't good, but I understood better in the context was the infamous, I wish you weren't my son line. So as everyone knows, this created a lot of uproar in the Harry Potter fandom when this was released, because most people were thinking that Harry would never say that to his son. And I agree, in the context of the books, Harry Potter would absolutely never say that to his son. But I've come to accept that there are three canons. There's book canon, there's film canon, and now we have play canon, and they're different things. So in this context, Harry's kind of a jerk. He does a lot of jerkish things. He's not the best father. So in that world, I can kind of see Harry Potter's character saying that he weren't his son. It comes out as this furious burst of anger, which, while still pretty unforgivable, is somehow more understandable in the context, because they're both yelling at each other, they're both saying things they don't mean. I saw where he was coming from, as horrible as that is to say. The scene where Ron wants to renew his vows is really, really weird in the script, but I thought it kind of worked in the play. I thought it was kind of cute, even though I do not agree with the idea that Ron was drunk at his wedding. Should have mentioned that earlier, but Ron Weasley would not be drunk in his vows with Hermione Granger. He loves her too much for that. I'm sorry. That made me so mad when I first read that, and I was so mad about it when I saw the play. But anyway, the whole like renewing your vows scene was cute. I thought that the Hermione Ron stuff was all really cute, and I really liked that. I thought the soulmate connection stuff was actually a lot better in the play than it was in the script, so I did like that. I kind of can't believe I'm saying this, but Scorpius's crush on Rose was, if not my favorite romance of all time, kind of believable in this version, and I would put that down to the actors. I think Samuel Blanken did a really good job playing Scorpius's awkwardness and his crushing on this powerful girl. And then I thought Helena Luco did a really nice job playing the whole I'm too cool for you, but I may warm up to you eventually kind of vibe. I still don't ship them, but I tolerate it more after seeing the production. So now we're going to get into the really positive stuff, where I talk about things that I thought were good in the script and I thought were even better in the play. So first off, you probably could have seen this coming, but I'm going to talk about my pure, good-hearted, son, Scorpius Malfoy. Scorpius Malfoy is too good for this earth. We do not deserve Scorpius Malfoy. He is a gift. And honestly, he's so adorable on stage. He's so funny. He's so relatable. He's so hilarious. I love him. I think Samuel Blanken is doing such a fantastic job as Scorpius. I think he's so funny, and I think he's totally gets the awkward, shy vibe of him. He doesn't come across as cool in the slightest, which is always how I pictured Scorpius. So I love him. He's pure. He's good. He's even funnier on the stage. Scorpius Malfoy is the gift we did not deserve. You know that scene in the play where Cedric is in the Triwizard Tournament and he's in the third task and Scorpius and Albus are there and he thinks he has to attack them or something and then he saves them and then they say that his dad loves him and then he says he's gonna finish the tournament. That's sad. It was sad in the script and it made me sadder on stage. It was really sad. More sad things. So the scene where Harry has to watch his parents die, oh, that killed me. That killed me. That was really, really heartbreaking, actually. Okay, actors. Let's talk about them. So overall, I have to say, this is a really fantastic cast. I saw the very first night of the new cast, which was actually really, really fun. And at first, I was kind of sad because I knew I wasn't going to get to see the originals. But then I was like, wow, these guys are fantastic. They do such a great job. And just based on what I've read online, it sounds like these actors had a portrayal I would have liked more than the original. So I'm actually really happy I saw them. So let's just start off. Scorpius Malfoy, Samuel Blanken, really fantastic, did a really great job. I think he just elevated the material to something that it wasn't on the script, and he made such a likable, entertaining character who I absolutely loved. Precious cinnamon roll. Not a whole lot to say about him. Side note though, at the stage door when I was talking to him afterwards, he thanked me for coming, and then I just went, thank you for performing. And then he was like, oh, well, I don't really have a choice, but thanks anyway. And then he walked away. Anyhow, Theo Ancient as Albus Potter. Really, really good as well. I think he made Teen Angst likable. And I think I said this earlier, but that's a hard thing to do. I think he took a really unsympathetic character and made him really interesting. I really felt that Albus was just an uncomfortable, awkward kid trying to find his place in the world. So I really liked him. I thought he was fantastic. He was great. Jamie Glover as Harry Potter, of course, had the biggest shoes to fill, but I thought he was great. I thought his performance was really good, and he made Harry a really understandable character. I really felt for him in the scenes when his parents died, and when he was having the arguments with Albus. I was like, oh, poor Harry Potter, even though you're a jerk in this version. Rachel Ayola was super, super sweet at the stage door and gave a really, really good performance as Hermione. She still had that sharp edge that is very purely Hermione, but a bit of a soft spot, which I enjoyed. I really like Emma Lounds as Ginny, and I liked that they really brought back the fierceness of Ginny that's really absent from the movies and you only get if you've read the books, so I was really happy to see that. And just a couple of final shoutouts. The actresses who played McGonagall and Myrtle were hilarious, as was the actor who played Snape. I'm not looking it up in the program right now because I'm a bit lazy and I'm running out of time to film this, but they were great. They all gave really, really wonderful performances. McGonagall has the bit where she pretends not to see Scorpius and Albus under the invisibility cloak, and she says that if she didn't see them, it didn't count, and it was just so funny the way she delivered it, so I love that. I thought Snape was the perfect mix of creepy but also sympathetic, and I thought Moaning Myrtle was just so entertaining and kind of creepy and so fun to watch. So just for some general thoughts on the production, some things I thought were a bit weird were the fact that the play really follows book canon, and I appreciate that a lot, but I actually thought it was kind of weird because I imagine there's a lot of people seeing this who have probably only seen the movies. So if you've only seen the movies, you have no clue who Ludo Bagman is and why he's there, but all of a sudden he's showing up and he's narrating the Triwizard Tournament and you don't know why. So I appreciated that it really acknowledged book canon and it felt like a play for book fans, but I also thought it was kind of off because it paired it with different things like Ron's movie characterization, where he's basically just a blundering idiot. One thing I thought was really cool was the way that they transitioned between the years at the beginning. This is one of those effect things that I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say that they basically have these dance numbers and there's some really cool magical effects and it makes the transition so seamless. And to be honest, those were some of my favorite parts of the play, which probably doesn't say a ton about the quality, but honestly, they were so well done that I happen to love them. And watching those at the beginning was so fun. Everything that seemed kind of cheesy to me was made so much better by the cool visual effects. And that's why in the end, I have to say, I loved this. I agree that this play is cheesy. I agree it has so many plot points that don't make sense. But in the end, they delivered such an entertaining and such a fun show that I fell in love with it. I thought it was so fantastic and so well done, and I would absolutely go see this again. I read on Tumblr actually that John Tiffany had a talk with them and they had to go through 4 days of really grueling tech rehearsal to make sure they got everything right, which was really great because pretty much nothing went wrong. Everything was really well done. So I was a huge fan of all the special effects and everything that happened. It's just a pretty magical production. And as well, all the cast is so sweet. I met them at the stage door and they were just the nicest people ever. If you have a chance to see this production, take it because it's really, really good. Even if you've read the script and you're thinking to yourself, I don't like it, which I understand that feeling, it's worth it. It really does make you feel like Harry Potter is alive again. And just to end this video and to sum up my thoughts, I'm going to put it from someone who can do it better than I did. ELSEHWERE, according to his Twitter, was also in London recently, and he put out a tweet that pretty much sums up my feelings about this play better than I ever could. He said that Cursed Child is a damn good cry of gratitude for this series I love so much that it made me a writer whose books brought me to London. And that pretty much summarizes my thoughts. That was all my thoughts on the production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you did, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!